Fantastic. So this is the portal page. This is the landing page of our API sandbox. This is the page you are seeing first when you start entering the sandbox and when you start developing the apps. So here we have a portal page which gives you a brief introduction and some highlights and some guidance of where to start and where to move next, and also to log in and to register for accounts and so on. And I will talk you through the technical features in a bit, just to give you an overview of what we have here on the page. We have some links to some related apps which you can use. I'll show you in a minute. Here's a get started section, which basically takes you by the hand and takes, okay, look, first you need to create an account, obviously, right? Then you can start making API calls, authenticated calls, connect your app, start developing your app. And then as you move on, you can switch to and use your app to use the existing sandbox customer data that we have put on the sandbox. So the sandbox is so all the APIs you can use there, but there's also banking data in there. So there's a set of anonymized, but yeah, real life banking data. So it's
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a question?
Yes.
Sorry.
Please, can you mute yourself if you don't have a question?
Good.
Go ahead.
All right, just go on. Yeah, then you can test your app that you're developing against this sandbox, this banking data, which is on the sandbox, and I'll show you in a second how to do that, how to access this data. And yeah, the next section gives you an overview of all the APIs that we have on this sandbox, on this playground. So this is a catalog, an overview of all the, so all in all, in total, we have like over 300 APIs live exposed on the sandbox. And these are grouped in categories, like we have APIs for accounts, or transactions, all the obvious stuff. You can create branches, ATMs, products, like permission management, roles, metrics, also documentation, and so on and so forth. And payments and transfers, obviously. And all these will be available via our API Explorer, which I'm going to show you next. Before that, here's a hint which might be very helpful. So we have a number of Sdk showcases. These are pre-made and working code examples how to talk to the API in your preferred programming language. So if you use Python or C# or Java or whatever, or Node.js, here are some examples you can start looking at and see how it works, and which gets you going there. Right. So there's a few frequently asked questions here, and the answers. Keep an eye on that. And yeah, and if you need support, so as I said, we're online most of the time to give you support. The guys from Fintech Galaxy are there as well to help. And here's how to reach out. Right, so someone, yeah, okay. Good. So, so the first thing you do basically, you need to register for an account. So here on the top of the page, there's the sign up button, and you just register with your preferred username and email address. And once you sign up, you will be logged in with your user account, and you can start making authenticated API calls. You probably need some permissions, but yeah, we'll get to that in a point. But this is the first thing. You create an account, and once you have that, you can start using the APIs. There's a few API endpoints which are public, which don't require authentication, but the majority of them you need to be logged in as a user. Right. So let me briefly log in here with my existing account that I have. That's my account. Now I'm logged in. And basically, the next thing you should have a look at is our API Explorer. So when you click on API Explorer, it will open this app, which is basically, this is a toolbox for you as a developer to get started, to get an overview of all the endpoints which are there. Like previously, we were seeing all the categories of endpoints, and here in API Explorer, you have in the left column here, you have an overview of all the APIs which are there, which are ready to be called, and so you can have a look at them. You will find documentation as well. So all these endpoints, you can click on these. It will load the page here and give you a brief introduction. It will give you a description of what the endpoint is doing very briefly. It will show you the URL you need to call. Also headers if you need to put some headers here. It will show you a typical successful response. So this is what you can expect to get back from the API. And yeah, the required permissions. I was talking of roles already. If you need any special roles, they will be listed here. For example, for this endpoint, which is get customer attributes, you need to have the entitlement can get customer attributes at one bank. Yeah, you have some possible errors and links to further documentation. So this is the structure of API Explorer and the documentation and all the everything you need basically. But more than that, you can also make actual calls from here, from within the API Explorer. So so here's the URL, and next to it is the, like in this case, it's a get button. For other endpoints, we have put buttons. If you can click on get here and make an actual call to this endpoint, right? Good. So let's do, as an example, let's do a very simple call here, which is the get banks. This will well show you all banks that we have on this API sandbox, and I can click on get, and immediately I get the response. So I get here a list of banks as a response in the JSON of all the banks that we have here. Like we have the idea, short name, full name, some link to it, and yeah. So this is a successful API call that we just performed here. Yeah. So yeah, this is, as I said, this is the perfect starting point. So to find out which APIs are there, which how can they be used, which data can be retrieved from it, how can I put data, how can I modify data. So here you will find your answers. In the top row, there is in the top row we have also a link to a glossary, which is an overview of further documentation. So here you have like popular terms and any attributes and values. You will find documentation and further reading here. So here you can also have a look if you have any questions. Yep. So any questions so far? Where can we get the list of roles, and where can we update it? Yes. Well, let's have a look at this right now. So there's a group of endpoints for user, right? So in this section here, the user section, I can call the endpoint get user of the current user. So I need to be logged in for this, and when I click on get, it will give me information about my own user. And here you will find also all the entitlements that your user has. So I'm here an administrative user, so I have quite a lot of entitlements. When you create your own user, you will obviously have less. But you can always request an entitlement. So if you need a role and if you need permission to make some calls, or to create a bank or to create some account or whatever, then you can always ask for permission, and we will grant them as required and as we go. So I hope this answers your question. Good. So yeah, again, have a look around here and make yourself familiar with the set of APIs that we have here. There's a lot going on here, and this is your toolbox, right? So this is the set of tools you can pick from to help bring your ideas to life, right? So whatever you have in mind, have a look here and see what is there. There is, and I would like to mention, there is also the functionality of what we call dynamic endpoints or dynamic entities. And with these endpoints, you are able to create further APIs. So if you don't find the particular API for your purpose of what you need, then you can always create your own API based on Swagger definitions or on whatever you need. So I won't go because the time is very limited. I won't go into detail here how to actually do that. But if you need that, if there's a requirement to create a new API, you can do this right on the fly here. Good. So so then let me briefly switch to, there's another question. Am I correct to assume that we can call the APIs with logging into the API? Yes, that's correct. Correct assumption. This is what you can do in the API Explorer. You can make calls to the API. So as I said, there are different types of requests. There are GET requests, but we also have post requests and put, obviously. So yeah, this is how you can actually. So what you can do is you can play around. Yeah, you can test the APIs. Yeah, so is this really the one I want? What happens when I put other data in here, and what is the response? So you can see what you can respond, and you understand better how to develop your app. So this is what API Explorer is there for. So another question. Yes, I think we get to that in a second. Before we move on, I would like to show you. I was talking about this synthetic banking data, so the actual banking data which is in there. So there's a number of users and accounts and banking transaction, like banking history, transactions, and so on and so forth, all in the sandbox that you can work with. So when you want to develop your app, there's some data in there you can use. And normal users don't have access to this data for security reasons. That's why there is some pre-made user accounts you need to use. So let me switch to my other browser. So I have another browser here, and I'm not logged in at the moment. So on the portal page, on the main page, there's a button Introduction, right? So when you click on this, it throws you to a wiki page, to a documentation page of this sandbox. It gives you some further introduction of how to proceed, basically, another overview. And also, if you scroll down, there's a list of user accounts you can use. So if you log in using one of these accounts here, then these accounts, they have access to the sandbox data. So these user accounts, they have history, they have transactions, they have banking accounts and savings and cards and so on and so forth. So if you want to use the synthetic data which is on the sandbox, you have to use one of these user accounts, right? So, and I just pick, so these, we have, like, this is an international hackathon, which is quite great. So we have, this data is localized to a number of countries. So we have user accounts with UK banking. We have, what else? We have Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Bahrain. Yeah, so all these user accounts have access to different banks and bank accounts. So just play around with it and see what you can find. So logging in as with one of these user accounts here. And so I'm logged in as Eleanor from Bahrain, I think. And yeah, then when I go to API Explorer, I need to log in, need to authenticate the API Explorer to this username. I click and log in up here, and then API Explorer is logged in as this user account as well. And what you can do now, for example, so I want to see, so which accounts does this user Eleanor have? So I can use the endpoint get accounts held. No, this gives all accounts held by the current user. Very simple, very straightforward. And yeah, this is the URL. This is the string that I need to this is what I need to call. And all fields here in this URL, which are in capital letters, they need to be replaced by the actual bank ID, right? So there's a number of endpoints where you obviously need to provide some fields here, and the API Explorer can help you with that. So you have these pull downs here at the top. Okay, there's a question about access tokens. I'll talk about that in a second, right? Because you need to have access tokens to get your APIs connected, to your apps connected. So what I wanted to show is when you use this pull down here, you can select a bank. Here you see all the banks this user has access to, and you click on that, and then the page is reloading. And it is automatically filled in here. So I don't need to type the bank ID. I can, when I select it from here, all the endpoints which use bank ID have this field filled in automatically. Right, so then this is a fully functional URL for this endpoint. So I can make a call, I click on get, and yeah, I will see that this user has exactly one account. This is the response from the API. This is the ID, the account ID registered at this bank, and yeah, and there we are. So right. So let's maybe have another example here. So I want to see. Let me get the transactions. I want to see the transactions which are in this account. I can use the endpoint get transactions for account. There's two versions. There's a core and a full version. The full obviously gives more information. So, and now I have, this is the URL, and I have the bank ID filled in automatically. I also need to fill in the account ID, and I can also again do this from up here. So I can select my bank account. The page will reload, and then there's the bank account, the account ID automatically filled in here. And now I can make this call this API, and I get a list of transactions that is here in this account. Good. Right. So so this was an overview of the API Explorer, how to get started. Thanks for the question with the API token. So what you need, obviously, to develop your app, you need to have an API key, right? And you can get your API key for any user you are logged in. If you go on the portal page, on the main page, there's this button, Get API Key. And here you need to register your consumer. So your app is what we call a consumer. It consumes the API. So, and you first need to log in, and then you fill in this form here. You put in a redirect URL, which is this is in most cases not absolutely required. So you can also put a local host here. You should put your email address here and a description, and then you click on Register Consumer, and immediately it will give you consumer secret, consumer key and secret, and all the information. So this is your freshly registered consumer. You have this idea, And with these keys, you can actually start making authenticated API calls. And if you use this key and secret, these are bound to this user, right? So when you do the same, when you register your consumer from your other account or from your own account that you created, you will make these API calls if you use this key and secret as the user who has registered the consumer. So if you want to develop your app and you want to access the banking data which is in the sandbox, you need to get a consumer key for one of the pre-made from one of the dummy accounts, right? If you want to use your own, then obviously you need a key for your own account. Right. So yeah, this was authentication. We support different types of authentication on this sandbox. So we have something what we call direct login, which is the simplest one. Basically, it just gives you an authentication token back after registration, after login, and you can use this in your app. We also support OAuth 1.10a and OAuth 2. I think OAuth 2 is maybe not enabled on this sandbox, but anyway, it's probably there. But we highly recommend that you use direct login because it's much easier. The authentication flow is much more straightforward. You don't need to worry about any getting any libraries in your code whatsoever. So you can just get a token and start going. Obviously, you can also use REST applications like Postman, for example, to make calls and to play around with it. And yeah, exactly. Like Hongwei just said, direct login is simple and used for hackathons. And later, as we move to production or into more serious environment, then we recommend that you switch over to OAuth. But nothing to worry about right now at this point. Okay. Yeah, time is almost up already. Yeah, if anyone has any particular question we should talk about right now, then I think this is the chance to do that. What's in the chat? So are all accounts users within a group, UK bar, etc., equal that they have all the data the database might have? We need bulk data to analyze. Yeah, so not all the user accounts have access to all the sandbox data, right? So every user account has just access to a set of this, right? So as I said earlier, the user accounts are localized. So every user account with which ends with JO, that's for Jordan, will have to the data set of the Jordan banks, right? And so on, and likewise. What data is exposed via the API sandbox? Concretely real, synthetic. Okay, so it's not obviously it's not real data from a bank, right? So it's synthetic data. So this data has been created, but it feels like real data, right? So you have transactions there and accounts and all kinds of stuff, which is based on real data, but it's synthetic created data. So just for clarification, if you wanted to use these accounts, we need to create a consumer, then get the access token to be able. Right, good. Yeah, good question, thanks. You need to create a consumer key, which you then use in your app to make authenticated API calls. There is no endpoint for this. You need to do this via the website, via the portal page, right? So there's not an API you can call and get a consumer key. This is the one thing you need to do via the page. This is for security reasons. Do we have profile data for customers like data set for KYC documentation? There should be, I don't know exactly, to be honest, at this point, but there should be KYC data in there. So there's a couple of KYC endpoints that we have. Let's see, but we need a customer ID, which I don't have at the moment. Just play around with it and see what is in there. Maybe there is KYC data, maybe there's not, but you can add it very easily here, right? So you can add KYC documents, media, and so on. So use these endpoints, then you can put the data in there. So you only need to create. That's what Hongwei said. Yes, thanks. Great. Do we have bulk data analytics to work on? Yes. Okay. So yeah, as I said, you never have full access to all the data, right? You have to use the APIs to get the data, so you cannot download the data or something like that. But there's a number of metrics or statistical endpoints you can use. We do have the Firehouse endpoint, that's right, but I don't know if Firehouse is enabled. So if you want to get information about the number of API calls, which consumers and response times and all the likes, then there's a number of metrics endpoints. So we have Aggregate Metrics, which give a statistical overview, but obviously you need permissions to call these, right? So you can get the metrics, you can get top APIs, top consumers, and yeah. Okay, I hope this answers your question.
Daniel, there's another question, I think.
Yeah, can we explore Firehouse endpoints with our limited edition users? You mean, what do you mean with limited? So that's the dummy, the pre-made accounts. Yes, they should have permissions. I don't know, Hongwei, can you check? Oh, right. Yeah, use this endpoint. Okay. Yeah, so this is the entitlement, this is the permission the user needs to be able to get the Firehouse endpoints. So, yeah. So then, yes, you can reach us, obviously. Yes, you can, of course. Just reach out to us on the Slack channel, or yeah, this is always the best choice. Reach out on Slack, then all our team will be there and reading, and we can answer and respond to your requests and questions during the time of the hackathon.
Any other questions?
Right. Good. If there are no more questions, then I think we can wrap it. Yes, thanks. I think we can wrap it up here.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for the team. Thank you, Awa. Did I miss? You're here. Thank you so much, you guys. Any one of the teams have any other questions before we wrap up and tell you what's next? Okay, we're good. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, team.
Yes, thank you too. Stay in touch and good luck and enjoy. Have fun, right?